Hello, Flat Rock friends. Are you ready to learn about the 800s today? We have been rocking and rolling and learning about all the areas of the library, and I'm excited to share with you about the 800s. So let's dive in and see everything that the 800s has for us to read. First of all, the orange quilt is kind of our guide for this area. We've learned about the 600s down this row, the 700s, which start down there, all the graphic novels back here, and then these first two sections. The 800s are these final two sections, and they're marked over here by this 800s sign, showing us that the 800s are down this row. So the 800s have poems and joke books. That's kind of the main thing we know the 800s as. Now, poetry can have all kinds of things on any topic. So that alone is such a broad area. But books written in poetic form are usually fun, interesting, read quickly. Sometimes they rhyme, they sometimes flow, tell stories. But poetry is a really great thing to check out and try reading, because some of you are going to just really love poetry. So here's our sign, 800s. It says literature, but joke books, poetry books are the main things that you need to remember that's over here. All right, so you see here I have a sign that says poetry. Poetry actually starts up here, but it's just easier to put that sign when it's backed up against a wall right here. So it just shows you this whole area over in here is poetry. Starting here, though, in this very first section in the 800s, it's just a random assortment of books. There's books in here that'll tell you how to write a book, what an author does, what an illustrator does, and just an assortment of literature types of things. For example, you have Look at My Book, Kids Can Draw and Write Books, Pete the Cat's Groovy Guide to Kindness. And then this is a book about similes and metaphors, Skin Like Milk and Hair of Silk. It's an assortment of things right there in that first area. Then we dive into the 811s, which are the poetry books. And as with all the sections, they are by the author's last name. So you see all of these say 811, 811, 811, 811, all of them. It starts with the A's. B, C, D, C, it says DAV. There's no E's. We have F, on down the row. You can see this book right here. It's out of order. BRO. It should be over here with the B's. But basically, it's in this section with poetry, so I'm at least thankful it's there. That's how you find books. If you were to have a call number or know the author, you could look them up by the author in this section. So let's look at some examples. And again, poetry books are on all kinds of topics. We have them on all of the seasons, on holidays, on animals, on space and science and social studies. So this is Halloween, and obviously it's got some poetry about Halloween themed things, and it says nefarious silliness. I wonder if there's anything that you might think is scary in there. Might be a good one. Bark in the Park, poems for dog lovers. How many of you love dogs? Might be a book you want to get. Comets, Stars, the Moon, and Mars. I love this book. I love to read about space, and it's just written in poetry format, so it's just really fun to read. I'm just no good at rhyming, and other nonsense for mischievous kids and immature grown-ups. Bet you didn't think you'd find a book like this in the library, but there is, and they're fun to read. All right, down on the bottom, you had that poetry sign, and it's more. It's continuing on. We had A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. Now we start the K's, L, all the way down through the P's for authors' last names in this section. Let's look at some examples. You have The Presidents Stuck in the Bathtub. Poems about the presidents. Now that might be a fun one, right? If You Were a Chocolate Mustache. Dogs Don't Wear Sneakers, and It's Raining Pigs and Noodles. This author right here, Jack Prelutsky, is a very famous author, so some of you might know him and want to go straight to the P-R-E for the first three letters of his last name and get some other books by this author. All right, moving off to the next side. Again, we're still in poetry books. This is back at the top. We ended with P's, so there's no Q's. R through Z's would be in the section. And let's look at some more of the books that we have. The The Random House Book of Poetry for Children, another one by Jack Prelutsky and Arnold Lobel. We have Monster Goose, Runny Rabbit, which is a Shel Silverstein book. Shel Silverstein is a very, very famous poet. There's lots of books by him in this area. And A Pirate's Night Before Christmas. Now, I just picked out an assortment of books. You really need to take a look at this section because I'm pretty sure you're going to find some books that interest you. They're on all the topics in the library, all the areas we've learned about science and math and sports, scary stories, rhyming stories, all kinds of different things are in this area. It's just the format is in a poetry format, and so it might be something you want to read. All right, below that is humor. These are the joke books. And the joke books are off starting here on the right and going on down. And then after that, we also have some classic literature. You know, it said on our sign literature was in the 800s. So some Narnia, Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, Frankenstein, which is actually a very famous book, and some Harry Potter, A Journey Through the History of Magic, just some good literature books that you have here. Of course, the Harry Potter spell book. I get lots of requests for that one is here. But this isn't a very big area. It's small, but there's a lot of fun books in this area. And this is just an example. You have the gigantic joke book. You have Finding Narnia, which is the story of C.S. Lewis and his brothers. You know, C.S. Lewis is the one who wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, which is a chapter book series, wonderful series. If you're interested, let me know and I'll show you where it is. Frankenstein's monster, and She Made a Monster. This is Mary Shelley and how she created the book Frankenstein. All right. After the 800s, we have what's called the story collection area, and it's actually designated on the spine with SC, 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 SC. And that SC does not stand for South Carolina. It stands for story collection. And all that means is these are books that have a collection of independent stories inside them. That's all it is. And it's also not a very big section, but you'll see the SC and then it's by author's last name. So this starts with A all the way down. We have through S's. So for example, I want to look at this book, Augie and Me. If you've heard of the Wonder book, it also was made into a movie, Wonder. That book, Augie and Me, has additional stories from the characters in the book Wonder from their perspective, from their point of view. There is one by the author of Diary of a Wimpy Kid. There is a book by Dr. Seuss. There are scary stories here. There's Wild West. There's all kinds of different things, but they're just independent, standalone stories in a book, and it's designated as SC, or story collection. So now you know why this group of chapter books is just kind of sitting over here where it is. Here's an example of them. Only If You Dare, 13 Stories of Darkness and Doom. So some scary stories. A Minecraft book. We talked about the Augie and Me, 3 Wonder Stories, and Harry Potter, the Tales of Beedle the Bard, which are some independent stories, tales of Beedle the Bard, who was a character in Harry Potter. All right. Well, this is our area. Again, poetry kicks us off here in this area on up into here. Humor down here. And then finally, the story collection, it's marked with that sign right down there, finishes up the 800s. And now we have finished this whole area. I hope you find some books today that you want to read. Next week, we'll talk about the 900s. See you later, everybody.